Let there be no misgivings as to the animating purpose of the worldwide law of Baha'u'llah. Far from aiming at the subversion of the existing foundations of society, it seeks to broaden its basis, to remould its institution in a manner consonant with the needs of an ever-changing world. It can conflict with no legitimate allegiances, nor can it undermine essential loyalties. Its purpose is neither to stifle the flame of a sane and intelligent patriotism in men's hearts, nor to abolish the system of national autonomies so essential if the evils of excessive centralisation are to be avoided. It does not ignore, does it attempt to suppress the diversity of ethnical origins, of climate, of history, of language and tradition, of thought and habit that differentiate the peoples and nations of the world. It calls for a wider loyalty, for a larger aspiration than any that has animated the human race. It insists upon the subordination of national impulses and interests to the imperative claims of a unified world. It repudiates excessive centralisation on one hand and disclaims all attempts at uniformity on the other. Its watchword is unity in diversity, such as Abdu'l-Baha himself has explained. Consider the flowers of a garden. Though differing in kind, colour, form and shape, yet inasmuch as they are refreshed by the waters of one spring, revived by the breath of one wind, invigorated by the rays of one sun, this diversity increaseth their charm and added unto their beauty. How unpleasing to the eye if all the flowers and plants, the leaves and blossoms, the fruit, the branches and the trees of that garden were all of the same shape and colour. Diversity of hues, form and shape enrich and adorneth the garden, and heighteneth the effect thereof. In like manner, when diverse shades of thought, temperament and character are brought together under the power and influence of one central agency, the beauty and glory of human perfection will be revealed and made manifest. Naught but the celestial potency of the Word of God, which ruleth and transcendeth the realities of all things, is capable of harmonising the divergent thoughts, sentiments, ideas, and convictions of the children of men. The call of Baha'u'llah is primarily directed against all forms of provincialism, all insularities and prejudices. If long-cherished ideals and time-honoured institutions, if certain social assumptions and religious formula have ceased to promote the welfare of the generality of mankind, if they no longer minister to the needs of a continually evolving humanity, let them be swept away and relegated to the limbo of obsolescence and forgotten doctrines. Why should these, in a world subject to the immutable law of change and decay, be exempt from the deterioration that must needs overtake every human institution? For legal standards, political and economic theories are solely designed to safeguard the interests of humanity as a whole, and not humanity to be crucified for the preservation of the integrity of any particular law or doctrine. Let there be no mistake. The principle of the oneness of mankind, the pivot around all the teachings of Baha'u'llah revolve, is no mere outburst of ignorant emotionalism or an expression of vague and pious hope. Its appeal is not to be merely identified with a reawakening of the spirit of brotherhood and goodwill among men, nor does it aim solely at the fostering of harmonious cooperation among individual peoples and nations. Its implications are deeper, its claims greater than any which the prophets of old were allowed to advance. Its message is applicable not only to the individual, but concerns itself primarily with the nature of those essential relationships that must bind all the states and nations as members of one human family. It does not constitute merely the enunciation of an ideal, but stands inseparably associated with an institution adequate to embody its truth, demonstrate its validity, and perpetuate its influence. It implies an organic change in the structure of present-day society, a change such as the world has not yet experienced. It constitutes a challenge at once bold and universal to outworn shibboleths of national creeds that have had their day and which must, in the ordinary course of events, as shaped and controlled by providence, give way to a new gospel, fundamentally different from and infinitely superior to what the world has already conceived. It calls for no less than the reconstruction and the demilitarization of the whole civilized world, a world organically unified in all the essential aspects of its life, its political machinery, its spiritual aspiration, its trade and finance, its script and language, and yet infinite in the diversity of the national characteristics of its federated units. It represents the consummation of human evolution, an evolution that has had its earliest beginnings in the birth of family life, its subsequent development in the achievement of tribal solidarity, leading in turn to the constitution of the city-state, and expanding later into the institution of independent and sovereign nations. The principle of the oneness of mankind, as proclaimed by Baha'u'llah, carries with it no more and no less than a solemn assertion that attainment to this final stage in this stupendous evolution is not only necessary but inevitable, that its realization is fast approaching and nothing short of a power that is born of God can succeed in establishing it. Who knows that for so exalt a conception to take shape, a suffering more intense than any it has yet experienced will have to be inflicted upon humanity. Could anything less than the fire of a civil war, with all its violence and vicissitudes, a war that nearly rent the great American Republic, have welded the states not only into a union of independent units, but into a nation, in spite of all the ethnic differences that characterized its component parts? That so fundamental a revolution involving such far-reaching changes in the structure of a society can be achieved through the ordinary processes of diplomacy and education seem highly improbable. We have to turn our gaze to humanity's blood-stained history to realize that nothing short of intense mental as well as physical agony has been able to precipitate those epoch-making changes that constitute the greatest landmarks in the history of human civilization. Great and far-reaching as have been those changes in the past, they cannot appear, when viewed in their proper perspective, except as subsidiary adjustments, preluding that transformation of unparalleled majesty and scope which humanity is in this age bound to undergo. That the forces of a world catastrophe can alone precipitate such a new phase of human thought is, alas, becoming increasingly apparent. That nothing short of the fire of a severe ordeal, unparalleled in its intensity, can fuse and weld the discordant entities that constitute the elements of present-day civilization into the integral components of the world commonwealth of the future, is a truth which future events will increasingly demonstrate. The prophetic voice of Baha'u'llah's warning, in that concluding passage of the hidden words, "The peoples of the world that an unforeseen calamity is following them, and that grievous retribution awaiteth them," throws indeed a lurid light upon the immediate fortunes of sorrowing humanity. Nothing but a fiery ordeal, out of which humanity will emerge, chastened and prepared, can succeed in implanting that sense of responsibility which the leaders of a newborn age must arise to shoulder. I would again direct your attention to those ominous words of Baha'u'llah which I have already quoted. "And when the appointed hour is come, there shall suddenly appear that which shall cause the limbs of mankind to quake." One word more in conclusion. The proclamation of the oneness of mankind, the head cornerstone of Baha'u'llah's all-embracing dominion, can under no circumstances be compared with such expressions of pious hope as have been uttered in the past. His is not merely a call which he raised alone and unaided in the face of the relentless and combined opposition of two of the most powerful Oriental pontificates of his day, while himself an exile and prisoner in their hands. It implies at once a warning and a promise. A warning that in it lies the sole means for the salvation of a greatly suffering world. A promise that its realization is at hand. Uttered at a time when its possibilities had not yet been seriously envisaged in any part of the world, it has, by virtue of that celestial potency which the spirit of Baha'u'llah has breathed into it, come at last to be regarded by an increasing number of thoughtful men, not only as an approaching possibility, but as the necessary outcome of the forces now operating in the world. Surely the world, contracted and transformed into a single highly complex organism by the marvellous progress achieved in the realm of physical science, by the worldwide expansion of commerce and industry, and struggling under the pressure of world economic forces amid the pitfalls of a materialistic civilization, stands in dire need of a restatement of the truth underlying all the revelations of the past in a language suited to its essential requirements. And what voice, other than that of Baha'u'llah, the mouthpiece of God for this age, is capable of effecting a transformation of society as radical as that which he has already accomplished in the hearts of those men and women so diversified and seemingly irreconcilable, who constitute the body of his declared followers throughout the world. That such a mighty conception is fast budding out in the minds of men, that voices are being raised in its support, that its salient features must fast crystallise in the consciousness of those who are in authority, few indeed can doubt. That its modest beginnings have already taken shape in the worldwide administration with which the adherents of the faith of Baha'u'llah stand associated, only those whose hearts are tainted by prejudice can fail to perceive.